This is Lawrence D. Adams, and today I'm talking about why you must have a sharp mouthpiece in these upcoming days. Why you must have a sharp mouthpiece in these upcoming days. Many times we think about, we hear the word or the wording mouthpiece. What does that mouthpiece really means? So let's define it really clearly so we be on the same page. Mouthpiece is your ability to negotiate something with someone to get what you want. Your ability to negotiate with someone or something to get what you want. And we look in the context of what we were talking about. That negotiation is with a woman. So your mouthpiece must be sharp. Your ability to negotiate with her, the ability to get the things that you want. Sometimes we realize when you think about it, your mouthpiece has to be sharp in these upcoming days. So one of the first things you must do, you must build your vocabulary. You must know how to speak words that are colorful, that speaks to her mind, not only her mind, but to her heart. But mainly, you want to speak to her emotions. Most guys speak to her head and her physical side of her, but they don't speak to her emotions. Women are driven and guided by what they feel in the moment. So you can speak words that can cause her to feel a certain way. Your negotiations go a whole nother direction, in the direction that you wanted them to go. So it is imperative that you definitely learn how to speak to the woman's emotions. Next, you must learn how to also to make sure your mouthpiece is sharp in these upcoming times. Is that you must learn how to study the person that you're speaking your mouthpiece to. What is her needs? See, a lot of times we're speaking things that they don't need. But once you realize that what you're saying to her speaks to her needs, you are 100 steps ahead of anyone else because she's speaking to something that she needs in her life. First, speak to her emotions. Second of all, speak to her needs. Your mouthpiece must be sharp. I think the other thing I'm talking about is that you must make sure that your vocabulary is in place. Yes, your vocabulary is in place. You can't be talking this all craziness. You got to think about what caliber of women are you talking to. Certain vocabulary and vernacular only works on certain kind of women. So you got to learn how to know how to code switch, as they call it, very cleverly. You got to know how to speak her language to get what you want so that you can have the unfair advantage. That's right. So that you can have the unfair advantage. So you got to speak to her emotions. You got to speak to her emotions. You got to find out what she needs. Next, you have to make sure your vocabulary is in place. Most dudes don't have a vocabulary worth a dime. Make sure your vocabulary is in place. Next of all, I think I talked about this on my channel, LDA After Dark. You can go to that channel as you're listening to this. And I talked about your tonality. Most of you guys talk too fast. You talk too fast. You're talking too fast. You want her to fall into the gaps of your verbs and in your nouns. What do I mean, LDA? What do you mean, LDA? You want her to sink into the quietness and the pauses, almost like a rhythm and a rhyme, so that she becomes hypnotized by what you're saying. Hypnotized by what you're saying. So you want her to fall into the gaps between your verbs and your nouns and your adjectives. So when you're talking with her, you slow down your pace. That doesn't mean you talk like you're slow or incompetent. That means you're confident in what you're saying and you're speaking with such confidence that you don't have to talk really fast. So you need to slow the pace of your speech with her. Next, y'all, you need to work on your tonality. That means you need to deepen your voice. There's many videos on YouTube that can talk about how to deepen your voice. That means instead of talking like this, you bring it down because it resonates with her, with that masculinity that you're speaking from a place of a tenor or even a baritone. It does something to a woman's psyche. So you want to make sure you slow down your pace and you lower your voice. Many guys, I'm going to repeat this again, speak too fast when it comes to women. And sometimes you, in the moment, you may have to shoot your shot really fast. But Make sure you're confident in what you're doing. One of the things to make make sure your mouthpiece is in shape. What is your intentions for using your mouthpiece? See, that's the other side of it, because it's the energy behind it. So what is the energy behind when you use your mouthpiece? See, or people only use the mouthpiece just to show off that they have a mouthpiece. But if your mouthpiece has a directive in that you're doing this because you know when I speak my ism, as some people may call it, or use my mouthpiece, I'm going to get my desired result. So what is your desired result? So your desired result is to have her, for her to be on your team. So your mouthpiece you must be already set before she shows up that this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. When I speak to her, she's going to listen. She's going to hear me. She's going to follow my directions. Those are all intentions that you have before you even start your conversation with any woman. The next thing we want to talk about is knowing what to say and when to say it. Sometimes you're saying something in the wrong timing. So you got to know when to say it and what to say. My example is this. If you're saying something to her and it doesn't resonate with her, you need to think about what you're saying and when to say it. It is imperative that you understand that your mouthpiece is like a tool. You got to know when to strike and when to back up. I'm telling you, women pay attention to men who can talk. Once you know how to talk and communicate to her mind, to her soul, to her heart, of course her body will respond. So you got to learn to sharpen your mouthpiece. If you don't know how to sharpen your mouthpiece, you need to pay attention to people who negotiate. You need to pay attention to people who do have game. You need to pay attention to people who actually get results with women. The other thing is, you need to learn we talked about language, but we need to know how to set up the language to speak to the woman's emotions. So you may be speaking to her mind and she's always going to give you a resistance. But once you learn how to speak to her emotions, and I'm repeating myself because it's going back to the number one, but you got to know how to speak to her emotions. Her emotions is where she makes decisions, yes or no. Her emotions affects her body. So if you want her body to respond to what you're saying, you got to know how to speak to her emotions. See, a lot of times when guys think of mouthpiece, they think they have to speak vulgar. It has nothing with using vulgarity. What it has to do with is your ability to use words in such a way that it pierces past her conscious mind and gets into her subconscious mind, and you're speaking to her soul. So, at the end of the day, make sure in these times to come that you sharpen your mouthpiece. Your mouthpiece is one of the most vital tools you can have in the tool case or tool chest of game. Your mouthpiece is one of the most vital tools you can have in your tool chest of game. Most people overlook that. Now, maybe when I go over to LDA After Dark, I go into more detail and talk with a woman, and we explain the interaction between me and her and what it does to her when you speak certain words to her. See, you got to learn how to allow your words to caress her body. You have to allow your words to caress her body. Most guys don't know how to allow their words to caress her body. How to allow your mouthpiece. Let me say this too. Your mouthpiece is not just mitigated to just what you say. It's also in your text message. So you can text some things to have her on cloud 9 where she's thinking about you every day. So I want you to pay attention to what you're hearing today. Just a little drop I'm thought about. Make sure your mouthpiece is sharp in these upcoming days. This is the one and only Lawrence D. Adams, your trusted name in the game. Your trusted name in the game. That's Lawrence D. Adams, your trusted name in the game. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Talk to you soon. And I'm out.